Welcome to the Outthinker Blogcast. The blogcast is dedicated to helping you outthink your competition. My name is Kaihan Krippendorff, and this week I want to finally weigh in on the Microsoft-Nokia deal. You've probably already heard of some of the details, but in a nutshell, Nokia is going to give up its Symbian phone operating system, and it's going to switch to Microsoft's Windows Phone 7. In exchange, Microsoft is going to pay $1 billion. Now, there are many naysayers who say Nokia is making a mistake. They say that by giving up the operating system business, Nokia is giving up its future. And they cite stories like that of Yahoo, which in the early days gave up its search business in order to become a portal and thereby create room for Google to grow. There's the story of Borders, which, unlike Barnes & Noble, decided to give up the online bookstore business, choosing instead to outsource that to Amazon.com. Barnes & Noble, meanwhile, created BN.com and learned the online retail business. Borders, as you know now, is close to bankruptcy, and Yahoo is a fragment of what it once was. But this strategy of giving up one front to win a war, while it doesn't always work, it has deep historical precedences and can often work to a tremendous advantage. In ancient times in China, for example, the wealthy would entertain themselves by racing their own stock of horses. One general was growing frustrated because his horses always lost to the prince's horses, so he asked for some advice. He approached a famous military strategist who agreed to take a look at the problem. And this strategist observed the games. He observed that every match consisted of 3 heats. In the first heat, each opponent raced their best horses. In the middle heat, they put forth their second best horses. And in the third heat, they raced their slowest horses. And that gave this strategist an idea. He said to the general, "Trust me, I have a strategy. What I'd like you to do is challenge the prince to one final match and invite the entire town and all of your family to really raise the stakes." So the general did as he was told. At this match, with all of his townsmen watching and all his family watching, the general was starting to get a little nervous, but he trusted this strategist. He was about to put forth his best horses when the strategist said, "Stop. I want you to put forth your worst horses rather than your best horses." And the general said, "But I'm going to lose. There's no way my worst horse is going to beat the prince's best horses." But he followed his directions. He loses the first heat. It's pretty embarrassing. But on the next heat, he puts forth his best horses, and they're just good enough that they can beat the prince's second best horses. And in the third match, the general puts forth his second best horses, who are just good enough that they can beat the prince's worst horses. So he wins 2 out of 3, and for the first time ever, the general wins the game. Give up one front to win the battle. That's the lesson there. This is not unlike Qualcomm. Qualcomm used to make mobile phone handsets and infrastructure. They were an everyday player, number 3 or 4 or 5 in the world. But one year they decided to give up the hardware business and focus instead exclusively on developing patentable mobile phone technology. Overnight, if you look at the growth curve of this company, their revenue growth explodes, their EBITDA margins explode. It's because they give up one front and they fight the front that they can win and win the war. There are a bunch of other reasons why I believe that this deal makes sense. That's the primary one. Microsoft search engine, for example, Bing, it could become the default search engine on all mobile phones. Microsoft's getting a chance to dramatically expand its base, selling its mobile phone operating system to a loyal base of Nokia customers around the world. Nokia gets to save billions of dollars in R&D expenditure and focus on what it does best, listening to customers, understanding their needs, building phones that meet those needs. It's a viable strategy. So ask yourself, what front are you fighting that is draining your energy? If you were to give up fighting that front, would you win the war? If you fast forward yourself out 5 years from now, how would you be? Would you be better off or worse off? And if it looks like it's a good idea to give up the front, fighting that front in the battle, who could fight that front for you? Who could you outsource that to? Hopefully that gives you an idea for how you can unlock breakthrough growth in your company. This is Kaihan Krippendorff, the Outthinker Blogcast. I look forward to speaking to you next week.